So it took a little bit of time through conversation. We don't make decisions immediately out of the gate, like, yes, this person is going to be the perfect match, but each conversation gained confidence.
Hi, I'm Mark Schnurman, founder of The Perfect Franchise. Welcome to The Perfect Match. This is our series where we take you behind the scenes of real franchise placements. In each episode, you're going to meet one of our consultants. Today, it's Dave Jones and the franchise developer. Today, it is Jim DiRugeris. And these two work together. Dave and Jim work together to find one of their clients the right business. So you're going to learn about how the brand is a great fit, how the process unfolded, and what really happens to ensure a successful franchise placement. So whether you're exploring franchising or just curious about how these decisions are made, you're in the right place. So let's get started. In this episode of the Perfect Match, we're going to be looking at how Dave and Jim worked with a client to have a successful placement with Lightbridge Academy. And so I'm going to turn things over to them. First, would like to just do a couple quick introductions before I turn things over to them. Jim, as I introduced earlier, is Senior Vice President of Franchise Sales at Lightbridge Academy, and Dave is a Senior Franchise Consultant with The Perfect Franchise. And at The Perfect Franchise, our goal is to work with candidates to understand if franchising makes their life better or doesn't. And if it's going to make their life better, we walk them through a process to find the perfect match. And in this case, Dave and Jim are going to talk about how they were able to secure that. So Dave, if you can just kind of tell us a little about your candidate, the profession, skills, strengths, and maybe some of the challenges, and also why the candidate was looking at franchising in the first place.
Sure. So in this particular instance, the candidate has never owned a business before. Sought franchise ownership for a proven process and a model to handle some risk aversion that we all have and everybody expects, and it's your first business. Had amassed some really good transferable skill sets in her professional career before that, was well capitalized, had the available time. And this is a particular bonus. It doesn't always happen, but in this case, it was a very strong connection to the cause and the social proof, if you will, and what they do at Lightbridge Academy. And it really resonated well with her. So that's a little bit of the backdrop.
That's awesome. And what was it about the transferable skills that made you think that this was a good fit? What specific skills were there that you saw?
Sure. So in this particular business model, and I'll let Jim, the expert, speak to it more specifically, but you do have staff and you do need to manage, motivate, hire, and retain staff. She's had a good background in doing that. And you need to, let's face it, you need to love children. If you don't love children and don't have that sensitivity and that attraction, it's probably not the right fit for you. So in both of those situations, it was very clearly aligned that this was the right opportunity for her.
Amazing. So Jim, what were your first impressions of the candidate?
Highly educated, smart, great business acumen, but the empathy and the compassion on top of that, to Dave's point about, her prior industry experience in customer service. So there's the ability to build culture. Working with children, you need patience. So she, early in our conversation, started to display all of the attributes that get me comfortable that we can put someone with those attributes in a position to succeed. So it took a little bit of time through conversation. We don't make decisions immediately out of the gate, like, yes, this person is going to be the perfect match, but each conversation gained confidence.
That's great. And, for both of you, maybe Jim first and then Dave, but what were the challenges, likes, dislikes, opportunities that you saw with this candidate as they were going through due diligence?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge was, where's the school going to open? In, what market close to her home will we be able to find multiple opportunities to choose from? And we spent a lot of time talking about that. And I think what it ultimately came down to, Mark, is trusts, is the trust that we established the trust that she had in the rest of the leadership of the company, speaking with each individual, particularly around that real estate site selection phase, and getting her comfortable that she's going to be in great hands.
That's great. And I think the trust piece is huge, because at the end of the day, with any franchisee, their candidate, they're not going to have 100% of the answers. There's always a certain percentage that's unknown. And that gap is filled by having that trust. So great job there. And also for our listeners, what winds up happening is Dave and Jim, the consultant and the developer, have a different relationship with the candidate. So oftentimes they'll hear different things. So Dave, from your perspective, what were the challenges, concerns, opportunities, likes that you were hearing as the candidate was going through the process?
Sure. And, as Jim already mentioned, real estate selection, anytime you have a brand that requires brick and mortar, is always an unknown, and folks need to get comfortable with that. And then just simple due diligence through the FDD review process, but also to gain confidence from validation. Having spoken with and even visited, in this case, a couple of franchise owners of Lightbridge Academy, really built the confidence and heard from an objective person who lives it every day that they would do it again, that they're happy with the support that they perceived they were going to get. Now they're open and operating, they're meeting or exceeding their goals. And those are the things that build somebody up to a point of making a decision. In this case, a decision, yes, I'd like to move forward.
Validation is huge. And so it's great to hear you had wonderful validation. Jim, to go back to the trust and the real estate piece, how did you build trust with the candidate? You, the brand, build trust with the candidate to be able to bridge the real estate concern?
Listening, just listening to her.
What was that?
Listening.
That was a joke.
You got me on that one. I won't fall for that one again. I listen far more than I talk. I want to understand what's broken in someone's life, and not broken in like a catastrophic way, but there's something broken. There's something that they're trying to fill that they're missing. And through that type of conversation and building that type of relationship, trust is born. And it really goes back to the validation. Is she hearing what I'm telling her through our existing franchisees? Right? Trust but verify. So each step we took, each conversation we had, the relationship got stronger. I know about her family, her children, her parents. So all of that leads to, when you're able to say to somebody, you need to just, right, that void you talked about, Mark, you need to fill that void with trust. It makes their decision to say yes easier at that point.
Yeah, no, I love that, because as I said at the beginning, like, our mission is to, does it make your life better or not? Because nobody wakes up in the morning says, I want to own a franchise. They wake up in the morning saying, I want to make my life better. And so if you're able to get to their why and really what's missing in their life, it's tremendous. So I really appreciate that. So why ultimately, we'll start with Dave. From your perspective, Dave, why ultimately did your candidate choose Lightbridge Academy?
Lots of reasons, but to narrow it down, if I had to pick one in particular, everybody in the franchise world has a team that you work with. In Jim's case, he's going to work with somebody up to a point where they become a franchise owner. Then it'll get turned over to the marketing, real estate site selection, operations team, etc. But all those teams funnel up to a CEO. In this case, Gigi, the CEO of the company, is amazing. She made herself available, and that doesn't always happen, candidly, that she had a direct line with my candidate. And when she was feeling less than 100% comfortable, she knew that she had a person she could talk to at the very top. And I think that was a difference maker, candidly.
That's great. And Jim, how about from your perspective?
Yeah, I think that was a huge step in her coming to her final decision. And then I got a call, and the candidate was driving down the street and saw a piece of land for sale. And the first thing that came to their mind was, I bet that would be a great spot for a Lightbridge Academy. So it was like that moment where when she told me this story, it was like, I can't stop thinking about this. I know this is the right decision, and I'm going to put my trust and faith in those who come next. And really
That's
happy she
amazing.
did. The entire team loved her.
That's amazing. Yeah. The second somebody can envision themselves doing it, and so as she's driving and she says that's where it's going to be, that's it. So that's amazing. Okay. So any final thoughts about the candidate and why you think they're a great fit? And I'll go, Jim, you first.
We look at someone's core values and will they be a cultural fit? Obviously, you have to meet the financial requirements, but once we check that box, we really dig into will they represent the brand? Will they be an ambassador? Will they work with the other local franchisees? And it was just yes, 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 all along the way. And that's really how we make our ultimate decision to offer an invitation to join the system. So that part of the experience with her was wonderful. And we just are very proud to have her in the system and are so thankful to you, Mark, and Dave for introducing us.
Yeah, it's all Dave. So Dave, what was your, what's your feeling about the fit?
Yeah, so Mark, as you know, and our listeners may not, is that we start with lots and lots of brands, and we only get to that point after a deep dive in a consultative type call where we really try to identify where things are going to be a good fit. Once you get to that and you present a number of brands, you didn't start with 4. You started with 60 or 100, and you begin narrowing down the process. What really became evident from the very first review of a brand up to the final decision is this is the one. This is the one that clearly rose above and stood out above the other opportunities. When you do that, you feel good as a consultant. Like I did my job. I did really a good deep dive, and I really put in front. At that point, whether they choose to move forward or they don't, you've done your job. And in this case, that was the difference.
Amazing. Well, I appreciate the two of you, Jim and Dave, for joining and sharing the experience. And this is what happens when 3 things come together: a great candidate, a great consultant, and a great brand. And what we do at the Perfect Franchise is we, again, help to align what's important in somebody's life with a franchise brand if it makes sense for them. And when we're able to do that, we change people's lives in extremely positive ways. And Jim, I will tell you, you and Lightbridge are great stewards of franchising. So anytime that we have the opportunity to have a placement with you, we know that our candidates are in amazing hands. So again, we appreciate you.
Well, I thank you very much. I love working with the company. Your team is amazing. I've grown to really enjoy Dave. Even though he's a little sick right now, he's still a trooper. But it's a wonderful experience working with your company.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Likewise, right back at you. It's been great. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
I want to thank everybody who watched this. If you're thinking about franchising or just want to understand options that may be the right fit, let us know. Please also click below to subscribe. And if you're ready to the next step, visit us at theperfectfranchise.com. Connect with one of our other amazing consultants, and we'll see you on the next episode. Appreciate you guys.